Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni mili wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, the principal, the librarian, and also please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Himalaya, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. Our guest today is Alicia Londos. She's here to celebrate the mermaid who found her home. Before we invite Alicia into the studio, we want to let you know about some great things that are happening here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. You may have heard that we have a great team this semester. We've been blessed with some amazing students from Emerson College here in Boston. Thanks to having these students on the team, we're going to be doing a lot of really fun, creative, and experimental things. On February 5th, our amazingly talented intern, Stephanie Davila, will be presenting an interview with Gabriela Burin in Espanol. Gabriela is an incredible author originally from South America, and she is going to be on the show talking about her fantastic kids' books in Espanol. That's happening on February 5th. To be sure that you don't miss a thing, please be sure to subscribe to the show. And also, please be sure to check out our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Illinois. Our guest is here today to celebrate her beautiful picture book. She is the author and illustrator of The Mermaid Who Found Her Home. Please welcome to the show, Alicia Londos. Alicia, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. First, this is an audio podcast, but through the magic of technology, I am looking into Alicia's home, and I am seeing the most unique artwork that I've seen in a long time. Is that original art by you?
It is, yeah. It's the two giant paintings behind me I created, one back in high school and then one a couple years ago.
So let me just see if I can explain it. One of the giant paintings is a picture of a person with their hands over their eyes, but their eyeballs are, I don't know if it's a tattoo, if there's actually eyes on the back of the person's hand. It's very intriguing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the whole idea behind that piece was kind of thinking about imagination. So sometimes you have to cover up your face or stop looking at something to get your ideas flowing out of your head, or you're hiding from whatever you're thinking of. So that was the idea behind that piece.
Interesting. And the other piece I'm seeing over her shoulder is incredibly colorful. It looks like a mask with all sorts of color around it.
Yeah. So that one is a takeoff of a spin. So I saw a painting when I was in Bali for a yoga conference years ago. And I saw a beautiful painting there, and I just took a picture of it, and I wanted to recreate it for my own home with all the blues and the yellows and the oranges, just to create a feeling of balance and peace within my kitchen. So
wow. There's a lot going. I'm not sure if I would get balance and peace out of it. Just because there seems to be so much going on with the colors and everything.
I would say, so if you're not looking at it through the video screen, the colors on the left and the right and, going all around, it kind of creates a circle movement. So you've got the yellow going to blue, going to red, and just circling around the piece, like within itself.
Awesome. Well, I have a feeling that this is a good introduction to the kind of art and story that we're going to experience when we sit down with our kids to read The Mermaid Who Found Her Home.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So tell us all about the book, please.
Yeah, so my new book, The Mermaid Who Found Her Home, is a story of finding one's home of acceptance. And I truly believe that kids and adults, will be captivated by the illustrations of the story and also pulled into the multiple layers overlaying within the book. So there's a couple different layers when I think about the book that I wrote. So there's maybe three of them, but the main one is of acceptance. And if we think about it, we spend our whole lives searching to find a home, people who accept us, a tribe we can call our own, somewhere to fit in, and someone who accepts us for who and what we stand for in this world, no matter how different we are. And as we go on through our lives, many of us get beat down over the years. We numb ourselves and we choose to do things that are not in our best interest to try to fit in. And we do this because sometimes we think it's better to be around people versus having no friends at all. And it's so true that, we need a circle of friends to belong to. But, as I was writing this book, what if that circle doesn't accept us for our unique gifts? Or what if that tribe or source is a source of our daily sufferings and we get questioned in whatever we do in life by the people who are around us who are supposed to be supporting us? And when this happens, our light and our gifts, they start to dim from within and we start to dumb ourselves down trying to fit in, and we lose some of our essence and magic from within ourselves. So if we think about it, as we're growing up, how many of us were told that we talk too much, that we're too different, we don't fit in, we're bullied. And when we hear and face this over and over when we're younger, it has an impact. And one day we stop telling our story. We keep our thoughts to ourselves, our opinions, and we stop sharing our gifts and our internal light with the world. And when this happens over and over, in today's society, this creates self-doubt. Don't do this, don't do that. What will people think? And what will people think if I don't have any friends? And so much is driven by our need and want of acceptance, or the fear of losing that acceptance, that we go so far as to shut down our dreams and our wants in life just to make other people happy. So like the little mermaid in this story, unless we find our true home of acceptance for the inner gifts that we have, we'll always be searching for someone to accept us, someone to play with, and someone to call our friends and home.
That's a lot. There's a lot there. And I was wondering if you were somehow in touch with my elementary school teachers. They used to tell me I talk too much all the time.
Yeah, they told me the same thing too, and I got in trouble a lot.
Well, there are a lot of things that you were saying that really kind of struck home. And I don't like to get political on this show, but one of the things that we're hearing today in pop culture is this: people can't seem to have a conversation anymore. People can't sit down and say, well, I like vanilla, I like chocolate. We have to fight each other. And it seems like a lot of people are self-censoring themselves because they don't want to say the wrong thing, and they're afraid to have honest conversations with each other and really exchange ideas. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel great.
I would say, from my experiences with that, a lot of it comes from fear. We live in a fear-based society. We're trying to protect what is ours. We identify with our ideas, calling them mine. And, my love is chocolate. And if yours is vanilla, you're wrong. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to defend yourself over and over. And, we got all this social media jamming stuff down our throats, so it just, too much fear is running the world. And I think that's why people can't have conversations with each other and have contradicting ideas or beliefs, because they just go back to some point in time where they had to defend themselves so much that triggers that. And they're like, oh, it's mine. I have to protect it. It's mine.
Yeah. When do you think that starts? Because the Mermaid Who Found Her Home is a beautiful book, and I think it's something that like most picture books, it has a message that can be appreciated by adults and people of all ages. But this certainly is something that we're going to sit down and read with our young kids. When do you think we first start hearing these messages and we start changing ourselves and aren't showing the world our true selves to try to fit in?
I think it can start, very early in life, and that crafts and changes itself, as we grow older. But I would say a big piece of it stems from, as a kid grows up and goes to school, they need to be allowed to change into who they're, meant to be. Mm-hmm. Right. And there's a portion of the book where, it talks about, there's a point in life, where our parents have to pass us the baton. Mm-hmm. And in the story, it's called blowing the golden whistle. So if our parents don't allow us to grow, or they control us too much or are too involved, too heavy-handed, or they shame and guilt us in our choices as we're growing up, we bring this to us in everything that we do. And it could stunt our growth in life and limits us as we grow into our life as adults. And when you mention that, where does it come from? Many people don't even know. And adults find themselves struggling in life and they have no idea where it came from. And it could be from, some kid bullying them when they were little, or someone making fun of them, or wearing the wrong clothes. Somebody could be wearing a super, super bright, shiny rhinestone jacket and none of the kids like it. So they make fun of a little girl and have her take it off and throw it out in the garbage. So one of my clients actually brought that story up to me, and this followed with her unknowingly through the rest of her life. And so I use this book with my clients to guide them to dig deep, to find out, what these limits might be and where things came from and what's holding them back. And this little story about, mermaids and unicorns, and finding their home can be applied to all woes in life, to identify those pieces of the story, put it all together and see what really happened and work through to release and move through whatever these limitations might be. And, once my clients get past these things, they find themselves coming back to their true path, letting their inner child come out. And, finding their own acceptance of themselves, which has been stunted, for so many years because of XYZ things happened over their life.
Wow. One of the things that we've talked about here on the podcast and celebrated is, when we're sitting down with our kids, I think it is so empowering when a parent, the most important person in a child's life, asks the child, what do you think about what happened in the story? What's your opinion? Did you like that? Did you not like that? What do you think the person in the story could have done differently? And when we hear the child's opinion, even if it isn't something we agree with, and we acknowledge that opinion is valid and we're interested in it, I think it empowers kids, and it sounds like that might be something that could really help kids as they're growing and, meeting people who don't agree with them and telling them that, I don't like your jacket. And I don't know, am I crazy thinking that this is something that could have helped that little girl say, well, I don't care. You don't like my rhinestones. I like it. I'm going to wear it.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, exactly. Yeah. And, sometimes, those conversations with the parents don't go so well. Mm-hmm. They might say, try to fit in, be nice to this person, even if the person's, not bullying them. And inadvertently, they give us the idea to not stick up for ourselves just to fit in with the crowd. So when I was writing this book, it's got so many different layers, but finding the acceptance and, like the Little Mermaid, I'm not going to ruin the story, but, the Little Mermaid doesn't know she's a mermaid. And she goes to school and everything starts to go down a downward spiral. She's not accepted. She can't make friends just because she's so different. And then when she finds out she's a mermaid, or, her own inner gifts of having hot pink hair, a nice green tail, shiny things all over, she's like, wow, I'm a mermaid. And she had no idea for, all these years as growing up. So she was able to, figure out who she is and let that come out. And, as the story unfolds, she meets the mermaid people and all the unicorns, and her parents have to allow her to choose. Does she want to stay in the world of people, or does she want to choose to go with the world of the mermaids? So you can equate that to, our lives. As we grow up, we're sometimes forced to be in these containers, and sometimes those containers, don't fit with who we're meant to be as a person. So my day job doesn't like my hot pink hair, but that's okay because I work from home. So you gotta, and that's just in the world of appearance, but they have to find the container, and the dreams and the joy and the life that the kids want to do as they grow up, and those need to be celebrated instead of forced down, in conversation like, oh, you need to get an XYZ job. You need to fit in with everybody else, allow that creativity to flourish over life and not just be focused on doing what, society wants. Mm-hmm. So I think parents can definitely help, reinforce those things when the questions come up about, I'm afraid of this. What could be done differently? How do I fit in? And, what can I do with my life?
Yeah. How did this story come up? Because there's a lot going on here in the story, and there's a lot going on that you're trying to get through the story. Did you sit down with the intention, I want to teach X, Y, and Z, and the story come about that way, or were you in your studio and just boom, it just came to you in a flash?
It kind of was like coming to me in a boom flash, so if you asked me, 3, 5, 10 years ago, if I'd ever be writing a kid's book or, help guiding people who are struggling in life, the answer would be no. And it never crossed my mind. And how it all came about is actually a really cute story. So some of my friends have a little girl who's 5 years old, and she really loves me. So they moved to Florida this past year, and she invited me to her Mermaid unicorn birthday pool party. And I really wanted to go, and celebrate it with her, but I was unfortunately traveling that same weekend. So I decided to create a painting for her that she could keep forever. And on her invite, I saw that there was mermaids and unicorns. So I decided to make her a painting of a mermaid riding on a unicorn in the water. And funny thing was, as soon as I was painting everything, knocked it out in a couple days, as soon as I made that last brushstroke, the story of the mermaid who found her home just popped into my mind. I was like, oh my God, I got to write this down. And so I started writing it, got it all done on the paper that day. And I surprised myself thinking like, all right, I'm writing a kid's book. Let's go.
Awesome. That's really wonderful. I just love hearing how stories come about and how art comes about, how music comes about. It's really fun. There is a band that I really love a whole lot called the Newsboys, and they have this goofy little song that they just created because they had to have one more song for the album. It was a long time ago before streaming and all that. And so they just wrote this dumb song about Captain Crunch and breakfast, and it turned out to be a monster hit.
It's wild how that happens that way sometimes.
Yeah, it really does. It's to the point where they're almost embarrassed about it. So you mentioned your clients and helping people heal and everything. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that you do? I know that you use art to help folks heal. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, so the program that I offer, is for people like women, men, kids, young adults, who find them struggling, whether it be mental, physical, emotional, family trauma, addiction, illness, career, or, any other part of life, that can affect us in our life as we know it. And my program is called Art as a Medium to Heal. And I use art and a whole bunch of other things, to help guide people to address and tap into what's going on the inside and help us get from where we are to where we want to be in life. And through this program, we focus on internal expressions, physical activity, healing, and so much more. And I use this to help my clients identify, release, heal, and start to thrive in their own life story instead of struggling to get by in day-to-day life.
Now, how does that work? You're talking about getting them into their inner feelings and trauma, and do you sit down and talk with them, and then maybe invite them to go and create a piece of art that it's like kind of depicts the trauma or whatever?
So for that, every program is different. So it depends on, the needs of the client, but I have a 21-day growth program, that focuses on, difficult cases. So that's where we get into, day by day, what is happening and starting to uncover the layers. And this program was actually provided to me by my own mentor. And, in addition with that, we have different drawing topics. So, my clients have homework to do, so that they can think about all these things when they're at home. And then we have our sessions either in person or on the phone if they're not local. And I also have special weekend sessions that the clients come in for, because online is one thing, but in person has so much more meaning and connection. So it's mixing the art with the spiritual, physical, mental, all of that coming together. And, if we think about art, it goes all the way back in time to, cave drawings to tell stories and depict what's happening in life. And what I found with my clients is some of them have a hard time putting things into words, but they can draw a picture about it because it taps into their subconscious and gets those ideas out flowing, because a lot of people who are struggling, they have a difficult time with, like I said, putting things into words, or they're afraid of telling their story. But it's easier to get all that out if they have a picture to look at. So like, for example, if you're talking about grief, they can draw grief or guilt or suffering or being stuck or, a whole multitude of different things. And the pictures and the physical activity, it brings it all together so that, it can be identified and see how they can work through, not just pretend that it didn't happen, but work through, recontextualize and accept and move forward with their life so that they can be no longer struggling as difficult as they were.
Fascinating. It really is. And it kind of, you're mentioning that some of your clients can't speak about certain things, but they could draw a picture of it. That's something we've talked about here on the podcast, whether you're talking with your 5-year-old or your 15-year-old. Sometimes when we have to have those talks, those big talks with our kids about whatever it might be, sometimes it's a lot easier talking about those topics through story. Instead of sitting down to have that big conversation, find a book that kind of addresses those topics and talk about the story with your kids. And what did you think about the character when the character was confronted with this or that? And, we find that kids have a lot easier time talking through that and opening up because it's not scary anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Because like even kids, they get so caught up in their minds, unknowingly, and they create the fear and the scare of telling somebody, be like, oh, I can't tell this, I'll get in trouble. Oh, I can't tell my teacher this, I'll get in trouble. So many different things. And, like different books or drawing it out, definitely helps in that conversation, especially when, kids or adults have gone through trauma or abuse or violence or, so many of those, super negative things that unfortunately some of us have to experience in life.
Yeah. This is really fascinating. I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the mermaid who found her home, find out more about you, and find out more about the services that you offer folks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the easiest way to find that is to go to my website. So my website is www.alicialondosart.com. And on there, you can find the big yellow button that says Order Kids Book. And also in that website, you can find about my coaching program as well, Art as a Medium to Heal.
Awesome. We've had a really fascinating conversation with the author and illustrator of The Mermaid Who Found Her Home, Alicia Londos. Alicia, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's World Read Aloud Day. We're going to be doing something special to celebrate. You don't want to miss it. That's the next episode of the podcast. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Alicia Londos. Please be sure to check out the mermaid who found her home. I also want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Will Cheever, Cassandra Masonet, Sabrina Wu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.